Hello, and welcome to the second part of a new mini-series covering the 20-year history of MTV's Jackass. In part 1, we covered the origins of the show's stars, along with the show's conception and creation, so if you haven't watched it yet, I suggest you do so first to catch up. Now, on to part 2. Production of Jackass was difficult initially, as many of the cast and crew were inexperienced, never having produced a television show before.
The lens seems to have disconnected from the camera.
On top of that, the budget and production timeframe were also extremely tight, but despite this, when Jackass finally premiered on MTV on October 1st, 2000, it became an immediate ratings success. In only its second ever episode, it broke MTV's ratings records by drawing in over 2.4 million viewers. It was such a huge success with audiences that the thrilled MTV executives immediately greenlit a second season. Now that Jackass was a bona fide success, fame and celebrity for the cast would soon follow. Johnny Knoxville found himself on the cover of Rolling Stone just months after Jackass's premiere, whilst Bam suddenly became the most popular kid in his neighbourhood, along with also becoming a playable character in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 3 in 2001. Most of the other cast members, Steve-O in particular, would embrace their newfound celebrity status. However, with all the added benefits that publicity, attention and fame would bring, it would also invite far more scrutiny. Due to the show's very nature and subject matter, right from the start it became a magnet for criticism, controversy and eventually censorship. MTV and the producers of Jackass would take as many measures as possible to combat any potential issues that could arise from the show's content. Despite all of these precautions, however, on January 26, 2001, a 13-year-old teenager from Connecticut wound up in critical condition in hospital with third-degree burns. A spokesperson from the local police department later said that the teen had been burnt whilst imitating a stunt they had recently seen performed on Jackass. This incident would then lead to a US senator getting involved and publicly denouncing and condemning the show. The senator subsequently began a campaign against Jackass and MTV, issuing a statement saying, "Ideally, I would encourage you to either cancel this exploitative and degrading show, or eliminate the stunts that could be dangerous if imitated by children." This would see MTV respond by cancelling all showings of Jackass before 10 PM and even eventually no longer airing some of the later episodes. The cast and crew of Jackass were extremely angered by MTV's decision and perceived it as MTV caving to the senator's demands. From the onset of production on season 2 of Jackass, MTV would now give the show's producers notes on what could and could not be featured on the show, as well as heavily pulling back on promotion for the series. Knoxville felt that the show was being watered down and that the funny was being sucked right out of it. Spike Jonze would also say that it felt like that the steam had been taken out of them. This would continue throughout production on season 3, with the divide between MTV and Jackass's crew only growing, eventually leading to Knoxville abruptly quitting the show, leaving MTV stunned. The rest of his castmates and crew would soon follow, causing the series to end after just 3 short seasons. This was a seemingly very anticlimactic end to one of MTV's hottest new properties. However, this would not be the end of Jackass entirely. It was merely only the end of its incarnation as a TV show, and not as a potential franchise. With the lack of a definitive series finale, and left with a feeling that they went as far as they could on TV, the idea of a potential feature film to take Jackass to the next level began to be discussed. It also happened that around this time, MTV Films had just launched and was fielding pitches to produce a new comedy sketch film. Knoxville, Tremaine and Jones pitched their idea to MTV, and the movie was greenlit shortly thereafter with a modest budget of $5 million.
The movie's pretty much just like the show, only now we get to show whatever we want.
This summer, Jackass, the movie.
This is gonna work.
Jackass the movie debuted at number 1 at the box office and would eventually go on to gross $79.5 million worldwide, becoming a major surprise hit for Paramount Pictures and MTV Films, with film critic Richard Roper notably calling it the feel-sick movie of the year. The movie had now also established Knoxville as a rising movie star, launching the mainstream Hollywood career he had been striving for. He would go on to star in 2004's Walking Tall with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, the remake of The Dukes of Hazzard, and the Farrelly Brothers comedy The Ringer in 2005, earning a reported $5 million per movie. Spike Jonze went on to direct the Academy Award-winning movie Adaptation, starring Nicolas Cage, whilst Bam Margera was given his own prank-centred spin-off series by MTV called Viva La Bam, which became a huge hit with audiences and lasted for 5 seasons. Meanwhile, Jeff Tremaine would team up with Jackass castmates Steve-O and Chris Pontius, to create their own spin-off called Wild Boys, which deviated somewhat from the established Jackass formula and saw them travelling to exotic locations around the world, encountering and annoying dangerous animals. Throughout the course of Wild Boys' 4-season run, Johnny Knoxville would make sporadic guest appearances, performing a variety of stunts, sketches and pranks. Tremaine eventually approached Knoxville whilst they were shooting Wild Boys in Russia and said, "If you're willing to go this all out, why not get all the guys back together and shoot another movie?" With Wild Boys and Viva La Bam both finishing up their respective TV runs, the full cast was now finally available to reunite to shoot another movie.
We just made number 2.
And on September 22nd, 2006, Jackass number 2 debuted at number 1 at the box office, grossing nearly $85 million worldwide. On top of the financial success, the sequel would also find more critical success, being awarded a critic's pick by the New York Times. After the sequel's success, Jackass was now not only a successful TV series with numerous spin-offs, but also a multi-million-dollar movie franchise. And on February 23rd, 2008, most of the Jackass crew, with the notable exception of Ryan Dunn, would take over MTV Studios for 24 hours to promote the launch of their new website, jackassworld.com.
Welcome to the takeover of MTV, hosted by us, the girls from Jackass.
For the 24-hour takeover, they performed stunts, pranks, took questions and gave interviews. During the takeover, however, Steve-O became far too intoxicated, and his behaviour eventually caused MTV executives to kick him out of the building. This incident, and others like it, were merely a symptom of a far larger problem with Steve-O, however, who had long since been suffering with a drug and alcohol problem. Whilst his drug use started out recreationally, it soon escalated after he was misdiagnosed with cardiomyopathy. After this diagnosis, he went on a long-term self-destructive drug binge, which would plant the seeds of an eventual mental breakdown in 2008. That March, many of Steve-O's friends, including Knoxville, received an email from him in which he alluded to his possible future suicide. Knoxville and Steve-O's family and friends were alarmed and growing extremely concerned, subsequently staging an intervention. Steve-O was then placed on a 14-day psychiatric hold due to the alleged suicide attempt. Steve-O would be in and out of mental health facilities for the next year with severe mood swings and depression before finally going completely sober.
I'm just here to say that things got really bad for me, to the point where I'm willing to do whatever it takes to stay sober on a daily basis.
It had been 4 years since Jackass number 2, and with Steve-O now completely sober, they felt that the time was right to finally make another movie in the series. They still wanted to go bigger and to push the franchise creatively, and this time they would do it by utilising new 3D technology that had just been recently popularised by James Cameron's Avatar.
One movie will change 3D forever.
Now, Johnny Knoxville, welcome to Jackass!
Released on October 15th, 2010, Jackass 3D was the franchise's biggest hit yet, again debuting at number 1 and pulling in $171 million against a $20 million budget, outperforming the highest of expectations. Despite the series starting off on television nearly 10 years previous, the Jackass franchise was now more popular than ever, and its ceiling seemed to know no bounds. The future looked extremely bright, until a devastating event occurred that would rock the cast and crew to their very core. Thanks for watching, and if you found this topic as intriguing as I did, don't forget to drop a like, and remember to subscribe if you want to see more intriguing content like this in the future.